All right, Evan, we're starting to have some folks jump in here. Evan, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, there's a ton of folks popping in. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us on a Friday afternoon if you're on the East Coast, or a Friday, kind of starting off your morning if you're on the West Coast, or perhaps you're international. Feel free to put in the chat where you're coming from. We will we will have the Q&A set up here in just a second. But I just to kind of get everything kicked off first, and then we'll do some housekeeping. But Evan, thank you for making the time to do this. This is an exciting webinar that we've been looking forward to running. And in case everyone hasn't met Evan, Evan is top 50 Operation 36 master coach. He's been running the program for over 7 years. He is the director of instruction at Tumblebrook Golf Club in Bloomfield, Connecticut. And just in our network has just been incredibly helpful in kind of being a mentor to other folks on how he's using it. He comes from an education background. He's an amazing coach. And he's impressed the heck out of us here at Op36 headquarters of how he uses the program indoors and outdoors. And today, we're pretty excited that Evan's offered to kind of walk through how he's leveraging technology indoors. Specifically, he's going to showcase TrackMan here and how he's using TrackMan to continue running Op36 programming indoors. And in case you have not met me before, I'm Matt Reagan. I'm one of the co-founders of Operation 36. Back in 2010, I teamed up with Ryan Daly, another golf professional. We had kind of this vision of how do you create a long-term junior golf program. Over the last 13 years, it's evolved into, okay, what needs to be in place, not only for juniors, but what's the best way we can introduce a beginner to the game of golf, give them a plan to become a golfer, and then give them measurable and fun improvement as they become a golfer over time. Because as we know, it takes a lot of time. And with the data we're tracking, we're realizing it takes even more time than maybe people think to become a very skilled golfer. And our whole goal in the program is to take someone from their first round until they can shoot par from the full tee box. So I would say the way the program differs a bit from, say, a drop-in camper clinic is just like in an education system that I think we all think in golf, like, hey, just drop your kid off whenever you want. They're gonna become a golfer. If we did that in school, I can't confidently say, Evan, could you confidently say that we're going to turn someone into a golfer if they could just drop into their school anytime they wanted to?
No, having seen that in the past, those students do not succeed. So even in an education setting.
Right. So, in really Op36, it's set up to be more of a long-term program. It is a 6-level curriculum. Everyone starts in level 1. They're going to play golf from 25 yards away from the hole, try to shoot 36 from there. Once they shoot 36 from 25 yards away, we back them up to 50 yards, level 2. And there's a curriculum in each level with 12 skills to help guide them that are taught in weekly classes. So they'll do a weekly class with a coach. They'll play a 9-hole event every other week. And that's been the structure outdoors, green grass for years. As we progressed, for years, everyone says, well, how do you do this indoors? I'm in a northern facility. How do I keep this thing going? How do we keep this engaging? And in the last few years, man, technology, TrackMan and Foresight and all of the games and what they're putting forth to make an engaging environment indoors is pretty amazing. And so, Evan, today, I'm so excited that you're going to share a little bit more about how you use TrackMan in your weekly group classes, and you keep the classes going, but you also have adapted TrackMan a bit to kind of surface some of the yardages or get them to play the different yardages to actually feel like they're playing 9 holes, which is pretty neat to hear. And before we get started, just recently we actually we've been asked a ton, like, how can we get the Op36 format for playing indoors? How can you do that? We launched GSPro's partnership. So that's a software that works with Foresight and Unicore and a couple others, that it actually allows you to play the yardages inside of it, right? A large majority of our coaches have TrackMans. So I know that they're very excited to see this, and we're very excited to continue this conversation and in hopes that in someday we will have like a complete solution that would be really fun to have it right inside of TrackMan. But in the meantime, I think, Evan, you're our man to kind of guide us through how you're using it. I'm really excited. We're going to turn it over to Evan. He's got quite a agenda of what he wants to cover. I'll let him go into that. And if you have any questions, just put it in the Q&A, and I'll work in the background to try to answer those and just kind of be a dialogue and ask questions to you, Evan, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for all joining onto this this webinar. This is something that I'm hugely passionate about, and just hope that I can share some of the things that work well for me in my own coaching. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the structure of the classes. You know, when we're in the green grass outside, you can have more students in your class, and Operation 36 recommends a 6-to-1 instructor to student ratio. I personally like to do 8-to-1 just because I was a public school teacher, so I have more confidence in classroom management and things like that. But it all depends on the space that you have in your indoor facility. This room here that I built is small, very small. So I try to keep the maximum class size to 4 students. I found that that's pretty much the biggest group that I can handle in this space. At one point, I had 10 kids between the ages of 5 and 7 in here, and I would not recommend that. That was not a fun day for me. So anywhere up to 4 kids, but I really find that single instruction individually or 2. 2 is the magic number, because then you have a kid and their friend, they're having fun together, they've got somebody to compete against, and you know, it helps you, it helps your bottom line as the instructor to have a couple extra students in there as well. So it all starts with class size. How big of a group are you willing to have into your facility, right? And then the second thing is I run an indoor semester just like I do an outdoor one. 8 weeks, weekly classes. I don't have the playing events like the 9-hole division matches, but what I do is incorporate the play into the semester, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But it really does mimic what we do outside indoors, just on a scaled back version. And then, so the 2 parts today that I really want to focus on are the curriculum. How do we execute the curriculum indoors here using a launch monitor, using something that will provide feedback to your students, leveraging the technology that you have to enhance your overall coaching, and then the gamification portion of it. Matt and I talked about this a couple of days ago, and that's really the beautiful thing about Operation 36 is this library of games that you can do with kids outside. But then when you come indoors, we lose that opportunity just due to space and due to the lack of facilities. But you now have a beautiful option in simulated golf if you know where to look and what activities to program in there, be it golf, be it the games, be it anything that you can come up with in there. So I want to talk a little bit about the gamification and how I use the TrackMan software to really tie everything together in one neat package. So the curriculum, as a former public school teacher, this speaks to me, where I taught pre-K through 6 general music in an elementary school. So on day 1, when I came in for my training, they handed me a book of curriculum and said, this is what you are supposed to be teaching. So that a student, if they leave your school and go to another one in district, they're going to be able to pick up right away where you left off. And to me, that's the only way that you can truly deliver a true developmental program is through curriculum. And lucky for us, that 2 men who are way smarter than I am came up for it for us. And we have a just unbelievable sequence of curriculum from 1 to 6 that can take up to 10 years. That's what they say in the training, right? It could be shorter, could be longer. But now what it does for you as the coach is that you're able to present this to a parent and say, I have the roadmap for success for your student. This is where they're going to start, and this is where they're going to end, and this is what they're going to do in there as well. And Matt, I didn't tell you this the other day. I know that Operation 36 is recommending that you move the students on in the curriculum as they hit past their different divisions outdoors. Yes. I personally want to create students that learn everything. They go through all of level 1, all through level 2. That's what makes sense to me personally, because I want to have a student that eliminates those problems that we see as adults. I want to give them the most solid foundation by completing everything. And I don't care how long it takes, just as long as the student is progressing to their own ability level and that they feel success. So to me, if I look at the curriculum here, you've got three different curriculum points. Number one, level one alignment, aim the face. And level two, it's a ball flight, club face rotation. Level three, ball flight, is online, inside out, outside in swings. Those
Yep.
three things, and I tell my students, if you can learn those three, I'm teaching you how to shape the ball. I'm teaching you how to curve it, but you can't do it without all of them together. So it's the sequence of events that this curriculum is producing that to me is just outstanding. And I'll share this with everybody on the call. My first 2 years with Operation 36, I didn't run the curriculum. And I wish that I could go back in time and tell myself to do it, because it has just helped me to improve my coaching to an exponential level, because now there's structure. Kids crave structure. Beginning golfers of any age crave structure because they know what's coming next. They know, if I do this, I move on to that. If I can do this, then I can do that on the golf course. It gives them something always to look forward to, always something to work towards, instead of having to be on the lesson tee and you're pulling something out of your back pocket because there's no plan. That's the benefit of having this curriculum, and why I choose to implement it every day in my classes.
And
So
Evan,
let's talk a little.
Evan, this is a great point that you made on the curriculum and how you want to leave in. There's people on that may not fully understand the curriculum. We won't go too in depth in it today, right? But the idea is that there's a skill, like every class, you have one skill you're going to cover that gives you a little bit of an education point to lean on, right? That you're talking through. And we just released Curriculum 2.0 last year, which was a big upgrade. Essentially, the levels, as soon as you shoot 36 in a level now on the golf course, you unlock the next level. Does that mean you completed everything in the level before? No, there's 12 skills in there that now there's two ways that they can get engaged. One, they can watch the video and tell the coach, and the coach can see if they watch the video. And then two, it's the coach approved skills. So to actually complete the entire level, they have to watch the video, the coach has to approve it on their end, and they have to shoot 36 from that level for all those 12 skills. So there's 72 total goals or skills spread throughout Op 36. And the idea behind that is there's always something else that kind of unlocks and opens as they continue in their journey, right? So that's the behind the scenes if you're completely new to the Op 36 curriculum. And that would, to kind of, I think that helps paint the picture a bit more, Evan, on what you're speaking to and what you like there. But that's what we have found too. The coaches that lean in and use the whole thing. Now, you come from an education background, so it's super easy for you to kind of plug into that, I'm sure. A lot of times we don't have that education on golf professional side, and we've never tried to build more of a long-term system for people to kind of progress through. So I'm excited to hear how you're using the curriculum and what you do indoors here in the next step. So take it away.
All right, so I want to give you a couple of different practical applications of how I would use this in a lesson. So when the kids come for a winter coaching session, I split it into two segments. The first 30 minutes is going to be education. It's going to be, we're going to find our curriculum goal, we're going to practice it, and we're going to take turns having repetitions moving through it. So that's solely the education portion. And then the second portion is the game, is the activity, is how can we apply that learning into a game. All right, so I'm going to go through here and I'm going to show you some things on TrackMan. So again, I see a lot of different comments out there on teaching forums about how, oh, technology isn't good. Any good instructor worth their salt can do it with their eyes. And I disagree with that, because it's really important to make sure, in my opinion, not to just straight look at TrackMan numbers. Use your eyes to see what they're telling you about the swing, about what the ball is doing. But what TrackMan can do, or any launch monitor, I'm sorry, TrackMan's not paying me to say this. I just have TrackMan here. What we have is the data points, and we have reliable, consistent, quantifiable data that we as instructors can use to tell the student, this is what you're doing. All right, so I want to share with you an actual example of what happened to me last year. I had a student come in, very athletic kid, plays baseball, but he's got this type of swing, which is really, really common. I bet you've seen one of these ones where he had this big over the top move that he couldn't control, coming way over the top here. So the first thing I did for him is I said, okay, we're going to start by doing the level 2 pressure at impact torque finish drill, where we drop that trail foot backwards and try to get him swinging a little bit more in to out. And what happened was he still had the same thing. And he looked at me and he said, I'm doing what you're asking me to do, but I just can't get it. It's still going. He's a left-handed. He's still going to the left. So I realized that he needed an extension. He needed something else to latch onto based not just simply me saying, Jackson, you're swinging out to in. He needed to see something. So that's when I would bring him over here. Gosh, Matt, I told you I wasn't going to be able to do this on cue. Let me see if I can get one.
It's
So that's when we bring him.
I'm in the
There we go.
under plane as well. So getting me to swing left on something is not. I could swing 7 right. I'm pretty good at that. So that's good though. You got her.
We got it here now. So what I did was I had him do the drill, have him hit the swing, and now you use your data point and say, okay, if you come over here and look, Jackson, when you see that negative, that means you're swinging out to in. So you have now something that's quantifiable that you say, look, this is showing you what you're doing. I'm not lying to you. The machine is picking this up. It's reading what your club is doing. So he looks at that and says, huh, okay. And then I said, how can you make that different? How can you change your feel? Because what you feel right now is still this move that's coming over the top and it's creating an out to in path. What can you do to change it and make it different? So for the next 3 weeks, that's all that we focused on. And I threw that club path number up there and he's working on getting it into out. Some were good, some were not, but it's just training his feel and giving him the information, giving him the data to guide his learning. So, and then he, on the 4th week, his father comes back. They went down to Florida and he looked at me and said, what did you do to him? He's hitting it like I've never seen him before. And all I really did was give him information, give him feedback, and then give him the opportunity to reproduce it, to practice it, to let it guide what he's feeling, what he's doing. And that's the beauty of having the technology, is because it's not just what we say. As much as they trust us, this gives us credence. This gives us a little bit more power to say, I can tell you exactly what you did. That club went here. What can you change? So that's where you don't have that ability outside. You don't have that ability with a group of 8 kids as often. However, if you're working with 1 or 2 indoors, now you're able to tailor your instruction to the person that you're seeing right there and really get a more solid relationship and more productive relationship moving forward.
And Evan,
So, and I skipped a step. Go ahead, Matt.
And what I love that you're speaking to here, right, is we're really big on an environment. So if we said, look, your job or we have to create a golfer, what would be the best environment they could live in? Number one, it would be great if they lived at the golf course. They wouldn't have to travel there. So that person who lives at the golf course, right? Then you go to the next step. It's like, okay, great. Well, wouldn't it be great if they had free balls on the driving range? Okay, great. Oh, wouldn't it be great if they could play free golf? So you start removing those. But obviously, what we have seen is in any environment that you're building, if you have better tools, it's a better environment. And that's what typically comes from. There's some really good books. There's an old book called Bounce. I'll never forget reading that back in like 2009. I think TPI turned me onto it. But it was this idea of these ping pong players written by Matthew Syed. It's a ping pong player that lived on the same street as, I believe it was something crazy like 4 other ping pong national champions were on the same street. And it makes you think about, well, why is that? And you learn later that there was a guy who was a ping pong champion. He had like 4 or 5 ping pong tables in his garage. He gave the kids keys and they all got to play, right? But they had the environment to become that way. And so the folks outdoor is amazing, no doubt, right? And being able to be outdoors and see the things and be able to go on the golf course and play. But the way this technology is catching up to give feedback, but some of the games and stuff that they're playing, I mean, it is just an environment that almost allows you to create an engaging one. It's almost like cheating, like as a golf pro. But I feel like a lot of golf pros think they need to get in with group instruction and just always work on technique and always get in there and do that. And it's got to be that. It's way less about that. It's way more about you can almost just step back. And that's what I've seen with really good coaches in the program is they step back and just let the environment turn them into a golfer. But you have to set the constraints, so to speak, and that's what you're speaking to. And I love that.
Absolutely. And so there's a term in education that has always stuck with me, and it's called scaffolding, right? So the first thing we have to do as coaches is sequence the events in a class, all right? What activities are you going to do? What drills are you going to do? But then from there, how you build the scaffold is where is it going? Where is it going to go next week? Where is it going to go next semester? Where is it going to go next year? And that, if you have that scope of where you want your player to go, then all of a sudden it becomes very easy for you to implement. It becomes very easy to create this environment of growth that we all want to instill. And it helps your retention, because now the parents, they love this. They say, I know where my kids are doing. I know what they're learning. I know what they're going to do next week, next month, next year, which is huge.
Wonderful.
All right. So, and now what I want to do now is show you just how would I take one of the curriculum goals and how could we test it indoors. So I want to take the rank 1 alignment goal. All right. So for this one, if you don't know what it is, it's called aim the face. And what you need to do, and when we do this outside, I stick an alignment stick in the ground, I put a noodle in there, and what I do is you have to hit one ball to the left of the noodle, one ball to the right of the noodle, and one ball straight at it. And Matt, before you change the power goal, that was previously the hardest. This one I found is the hardest one for players to pass, because it's the straight ball. The straight ball is the one that gets them. If I could have just a question to the group, and I'd love to hear your opinions on this. I don't believe in the straight ball. I believe that in variations of curve, because in looking at these, I've maybe only seen it 1 or 2 times where you have a true 0-0 path to face number, but then you take gear effect or centerness of contact into play. I don't think I believe in the straight ball anymore. I would rather teach a player how to increase or decrease the amount of curve to get that quote unquote straight, because I think that makes them a more versatile player. I'll leave that as a philosophical thought for you, and I'd love to hear what y'all have to think about that.
There's a couple in
here
here saying 100% with you, so, and sorry guys, I got to figure out how to get the chat live so you don't have to put it in the Q&A. I'll work towards that here as Evan's continuing. And then there was the only other couple questions just as I'm looking through the Q&A, because I love that you guys are putting that in there, and I'll keep surfacing these to you, Evan, are you going to be able to show how you do the Op36 levels, the playing format in TrackMan? And I think you are going to get to that at some point. I hope I didn't answer out of turn.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's the next thing we're going to do here is I'm going to show you specific courses that I use to mimic the Operation 36 format.
Yep.
All right. But in here though, so if we're doing curriculum testing, and I've got somebody who's ready to test for their level 1 alignment goal, you'll be able to have them set up, hit golf shots in here. And what I do is I take this particular number right here, the side total. All right. And that's your straight one. So this becomes more challenging indoors, because I ask them, I say, how many feet offline would you consider to be straight? And sometimes they say 100. And I say no. So we usually come down to 10 feet on either side. And if any one of us hit a shot 10 foot for birdie, I think we'd all be pretty happy with that one. So that's what I use as my guide. So if they're able to hit a shot that stays within 10 feet on either direction, I consider it straight. All right. But that's more challenging indoors because it's being actually measured. If we're outside on the range and that ball kind of skims the noodle or goes close, it's still subjective. In here, it's objective. So now we're creating a harder environment for your student to pass a test, which can only benefit them when they go outside. So I just think that the launch monitor technology, having the data points, really helps to give that instruction better in terms of delivering your curriculum as well. Okay, so now the stuff that I think all of you have been waiting for. Let's go to how to do playing. All right. So, and Matt, I was so excited to see that the GSPro was being released. I was so excited to see that Operation 36 yardages were coming to the launch monitors, and I got to say I was so disappointed when it wasn't coming to TrackMan. But I have hope that somehow it will eventually, and I think it's just a matter of time, because I truly believe in the Operation 36 system. It is the best way to do it for a beginning golfer of any age, starting close and moving backwards. So,
and Evan, as you go, just to kind of level set with everybody, behind the scenes, we're absolutely committed and non-exclusive with any indoor locations, and committed to trying to make that come to life as well. And we're very hopeful for it. So it's not that we're not working on it, and it's not that we're exclusive to any partner. We are very fortunate that GSPro stepped up and kind of set the foundation for it. And honestly, if we could be in every unit, or every type of launch monitor, we would be completely open to that. And behind the scenes, we do a lot of work to make that happen. So that's a lot on my desk, actually. So can't mention a lot, but I do know that we are, just to help with everybody, we are progressing that, because we absolutely see the benefit of this to help golf professionals, help new golfers. And indoor environments are just like, we think, are the future as a stepping stone and or a variation of learning golf at golf facilities moving forward. So, but I'm excited to hear the hacks that you're using and what you're doing to make this thing happen right now. So, yeah, back to you.
So I have not found a great course for 25 yards. However, what you can do if you've got somebody who really needs practice at 25 yards, you can come into the practice and you go to the target practice range. Now, what this is you just simply point. Why isn't it showing me the picture? Well, you pick your yardage and have them hit multiple shots. I think this is a great option to get somebody introduced to 25 yards. But then once you get players that are a little bit have played a couple of division rounds, who understand the idea of playing from a set yardage, then we come in here to the par 3 courses. Now, there are a lot of different options in here, and the first one I always go to is this one here, Sonoya Valley. I would say the yardages vary from 40 yards. There's a couple 60 yarders in there. There are a couple 100 yarders, but this one, I always start this with the beginners, because they have things like puzzle piece shaped bunkers, or a snake that goes around one of the holes. This is very beginner friendly. This is very young kid friendly. And it gives them the ability to, if they're at 25 yards, experience what 50 yards is going to be like. I'm always trying to give them the opportunity to practice what is coming next, not what they're preparing for now. So if somebody's on 50 yards, we're going to give them a try indoors at 100 yards, because eventually they're going to get there. And I don't want them shell shocked. I want them to be able to say, okay, I've had this experience before. So beginning 50-yard Division 2, a level 2 player, I would start them here at Sonoya Valley. Another good one here would be Sand River. And how I figured all of these out was just simply by playing them and by looking at the most forward tee box. And here, this has a couple of 50-yarders right out of the gate. I think 55 and 55 downhill is the second one as well. So it gives them, in the first 2 holes of playing, they're already in there. Okay, I got my 50-yard shot, and boom, here we go. Then in the third hole, it's 70 yards, but it's straight uphill. So now you're able to take a different approach to your education and talk to them about elevated shots. Talk to them about, okay, what happens when you have to hit the ball uphill? On this hole, if you're short of the hole at any point, it's going to roll right back down to your feet. And I tell them that right out of the gate, so that they're prepared for it and they know to take a little bit more club. So it's giving them these experiences indoors, so they can see the shot, they can see how far it went. All of this is valuable to me, because when they go outside, then they're able to remember, that one time in the simulator, it fell short and it rolled back. I'm going to take a little bit extra club. It's building the experiences that they can have to use outdoors. It's just truly valuable to me.
And so what you're
Another
saying
good
here,
one.
Evan, you're giving examples of courses that you have found conducive to the most forward tee. You would put the kids at the most forward tee on this, just to clarify on this. So these are the
Yep.
courses out of all the courses inside of TrackMan that you have found for, if you were trying to do a simulated playing experience, you would do it that way.
Correct. Some of them are the middle tees as well. What I would recommend is just go through. You can maybe even look up online the scorecards, and you'll be able to find which tee box has the most appropriate ones to your player. And I'd suggest you play them as well too, just to kind of see which ones are a little bit more friendly. So if we take, for example, the 100-yard golfer, Sand River is a great one for a 100-yard golfer that's a little bit more experienced, because there's a couple of holes that have forced carries. One of them in there is like a 130-yard force carry over water, and I always skip that hole. But the other ones are very good as well. Now, if you got a 100-yard player that's just starting out, I would go to this one, Leon de Montana. And I think this is the most forward tee box, and maybe the second one. But what I found on this one is it's very open. There's a lot of run-ups here to the green, so you don't really have to worry about covering brush, or covering water or anything like that. This one, I found there's one hole in particular that I don't know if TrackMan programmed it to do this, but there's this brush area to the right of the green, and for some reason the balls always go in there. So I use that particular hole to talk about club face control, and then we talk about if they're working on their club face rotation in level 2. This is where we practice it because I know that ball's going off to the right. So knowing your courses inside and out and using the opportunities, the experiences that you find in there to enhance your coaching, very important as well. And then if you're looking for a real challenge for some of your players, we go here to Dalebrook Forest. These have a couple of water holes that you got to go over and at about 100 yards. So those are the courses that I would recommend. You can go through and look at some of those are the ones that I've found are exciting. What I want to find in the indoor playing is something that is going to as close mimic what we do outside. Some of them in here just kind of flat with nothing in front, and those might be good for your beginners. But Dalebrook, Leon de Montana, Sand River, those are my go-to 3 that really provide a good challenge and a visual experience. Again, the experience of actually playing golf, even though we're indoors in a simulator. So, and then the extension of that is when you get your players to 150, 200 yards, I like to start prepping them for junior league. All right. I run a junior league team here. It's nowhere near as big as my Operation 36 program, but I like to try to use my Operation 36 programs to feed into junior league. So then when you go there, you go to junior tees. All right. And some of these junior tees in here, some are better than others, but I like to run my yardages for junior league at 100-yard par 3s, 200-yard par 4s, and 300-yard par 5s. I feel like that gives an appropriate challenge for the players at where they are, especially starting out at that level.
You do a
PGA
scramble inside? Like, do you
Oh yeah,
like do 3 kids in here on one team, seeing how low they can go type thing, or how do you do that?
I do it too. Teams of 2-person scramble, just like they would do outside. Remind me again about that, Matt, because I want to tell a couple of different things that I do in play after
I'll
I
bring it
finish
back.
with these courses here.
Yep.
So PGA National, really good one that has some really challenging holes, but it does have shorter 3s, shorter 4s, around 250, I would say. The best one I found is this one right here, Richland Country Club. Front 9 is awesome. You got to skip the first hole because the first hole is this one that goes straight down, straight up, par 5, and it takes 20 minutes to complete, even if you're playing a scramble. I always skip to the 90-yard par 3. That's the second hole. And then from there, you've got shorter par 4s that are really a lot of fun. So that would be my recommendation. AJ, if you're on this call, sorry if I'm hating on the Richland hole number 1, but this one is a really good one. Let's see what else here. A note on, where is it? St. Andrews. A note on St. Andrews. I've found that this one is difficult because of the rough and because it's like every hole is about 250 yards from the junior tees. And I want to see a little bit more variety. I think the first 3 holes are all 250 yards. I stay away from this, even though some of my hardcore golf students are like, hey, let's play St. Andrews. I said, let's do something else. It'll be a little bit more fun. And they trust me on that. So who knows? Maybe someday it'll change, but that's personally what I've found. So now those are the examples that I have. And if you want me to send you any of the specifics, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to put it into a document so you have it easy to find while you're coaching. But then when we actually play, there was this word that I brought up in the last presentation I did. It's called differentiation. It's how do you tailor your instruction to each individual student that comes in? And that comes down to the play as well, because you may have a 6-year-old who just started with you, but wants to continue in the winter, can barely make contact. Or you might have your 9-year-old who's at 200 yards and is an absolute stud. You have to be able to change what you're doing in order to have the engagement of everybody. And what I found to be the biggest struggle is what happens when a true beginner and an advanced intermediate player are paired together because they're friends. We have to find a way to be creative to get them playing together. So scrambles are very, very effective, right? You put 2 people together, have them both hit their shots, they pick one. It's a great way to introduce the scramble, and it's very easy to do on this system. Another thing we do is this. My saying for the adult junior every year is golf is great with friends, but it's the best with family. So what I do is every 8-week winter session is I offer the parents to come in for the last week, and we just play golf and they get to play with their kids. So now the benefit is the parent gets to see and hear how I'm communicating to their player. They get to take an hour off of work to come play golf with their kid for some quality time, and it ties it all together because I want that family aspect. The family's going to play golf. I want that to be perpetuated and that to live long after I'm gone. And the best thing I see now is once we do some of these things indoors, I get kids coming back. I went to the simulator and we played that game and it was awesome. That's the best thing I can hear because I've encouraged them to go out into practice, but it doesn't seem like practice. It seems like fun. So the last week I offer get the parents to come in to play with their kids. But before that, I say to them, in order to get to your parents, you got to go through me. So in week 4, they play against me. All right. Now, that 7-year-old who can barely make contact, how do we make that so that they feel like they have a fighting chance? Well, I got really good last winter at hitting shots by turning the club upside down, coming over to the left side and hitting them here. I got really, really good at doing a Matt Kuchar at Sawgrass and chipping backwards this way. And the kids, they got a hoot out of it. It was a laugh every single time. They asked me to do it every single time they come in. I'm like, I'm not doing that. You're too good for it now. But they had a chance because I was not perfect at it. Still, I'm not perfect at it. But now they feel like they're engaged. They still have a chance to beat me. And they don't know that it's a way for me to help be down to their level. So I encourage you, golf professionals out there, find ways to be creative. Here's another great one. If you're playing, say, a par 3 course, you want them to get practice at their 100-yard division. I play them from the same tee box, but every shot they get to pick the club that I have to hit. All right. Pro tip for everybody out there: do not tell your students what your least favorite club is because they will make you hit it every single time. They're going to figure it out anyways, but I can tell you I've never hit so many 4-irons or fairway woods out of bunkers in my entire life than I have in indoor coaching. But then again, you are now challenged as the golf professional to come up with a shot how to hit a 60-yard 4-iron while the players are trying to practice their skills. It's a way for them to get competition with you without being one-sided. That's some of the things that I found to be successful.
Evan, when I hear that too, when I go back to, in 2012, when we were diving so deep into gamification, one of the dynamics in gamification and differentiation, or they call variation, right, is the variability. Which is just really, really engaging for anyone to have something variable, which I think a lot of the games in TrackMan, the games in GSPro and all that do, it reminds me of the boss fight, right? So that's what you're speaking to. There's a boss fight in like every video game out there that everyone's like, oh, I get to go against coach. Like it's because we always get the question, like everyone thinks that they have to come up with so many games, where our stance is no, like how do you make a 3-footer fun for an hour? Well, it's how do you make a variation of that 3-footer. And typically the last thing is like, you get to verse me, right? So I just like absolutely love that idea. It just reminded me of that again, when we were back in the kind of the game making days, but that requires no work on the golf pro to make an engaging environment. All you literally need to do is build the narrative. Just like Op 36, the narrative is try to beat 36 from 25 yards away, right? They could just go play 9 holes. Without the narrative, it doesn't matter, right? And that's what I love about what you're saying is like, you just add this little narrative. It's super easy to do. You're giving us a bunch of tips here on how to do that. And it's the boss fight, but you also don't want it to be boss fight. You have to have enough sense to go, where are they skill at? So they feel like they have a fighting chance. Blindfold me or do this. That those dynamics are kind of like, they're hard to execute a little bit, but once you start to grasp it as a coach, that like nothing of what you just said has anything to do with their grip or their posture or alignment. But it has everything to do to that kid wants to come back next time to get the reps in, right? So I wanted to underscore that, as I think that's so important in what you just said, that any coach on this call can take away. It's more about player engagement and keeping them excited and fun. And then the rest kind of falls into place after that, right? The skills and stuff are kind of
100%. 100%. I just forgot what I was going to say, Matt.
Well, it's because I interrupted you. That's why.
No, that's good. Well, we'll move on, and if it comes back to me, I'll come back. Well, here's another little anecdote. When they play against me, I offer them candy. All right, and any teacher of any discipline, doesn't matter if it's school or if it's sports or whatever, if they tell you that extrinsic motivation doesn't work, they're lying to you.
Agreed.
The kids get jacked up over that, and I can tell you that we played match play against one of my 12-year-old girls, and she took a garbage bag of candy home with her because she trounced me. She beat me like 4 holes, and we're playing for 5 pieces of candy a piece.
Yep.
So yeah, and she was beaming from ear to ear, and those are the types of things that are very low stress for us. It doesn't take a lot of effort to, like what you were saying. Oh, I remembered what I was going to say. Um, when I was going through my collegiate education about how to deliver a music activity, what they told us is it takes 3 repetitions to truly get them to the point where they can do something on their own. So I encourage all of you, the coaches out there, don't be afraid to repeat your games. It doesn't have to be a new one every single time. And I'll share with you, outdoors, I do 2 games for the second to last and the last session of every semester. I do it 3 times a year. I do Treasure, and I do a game by Richard Hamilton, Tiki Tirade. And
Yep.
everybody knows it, and everybody comes to those classes because they know what's going to happen and they love it. And it's on me to give that variation every time to make it harder. But kids thrive on structure. They also thrive on repeatability. If they know what's going to happen, they know, if they know what's going to happen, then they have more success, they have more confidence. So don't be afraid to repeat your games. If you have 3 or 4 that are home runs, do them a lot. And if
Massive
parents ask you
insight.
why you're doing it, if
Massive
parents
insight.
ask you why they're
Yeah.
doing it, watch them how they're improving. This is how they're improving because they're engaged. All right, so now let's go into the best part about this, the games that are offered. And so, Matt, I mentioned to you on the call we had the other day, my favorite question that I'm asked by parents, club members, people just walking by my operation, they see all the colors, they see all the noodles, they see all the stuff, and they say, "You're not actually really doing anything, right?" And I can't wait to be like, "Oh, ho, ho, allow me to enlighten you on the things that we are doing." These games are absolute pure gold. There are so many different things. There's so many pedagogical applications that you can have in these games. It's unbelievable. And I want to walk you through some of them. All right. So the first one I want to highlight, which is one of the ones that was the first ones that came to my attention, is the Magic Pond. I find this one is huge for beginners because every single shot you hit, no matter if it's hit well or if it's top 2 inches, as long as TrackMan sees it, they're going to find a monster. All right. So this is like Pokemon Go meets the Nintendo Wii. The player is trying to find all the monsters, and you have all these different special monsters that are labeled at different yardages. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to talk about, okay, what club would you hit for 109 yards? How is that different than 22 yards? And the other thing that, and you as the golf coach have to be able to determine this right out of the gate before you do anything. What is most important that they determine from what they learn from this activity? I use this game to highlight the difference between carry and total distance. Something that there are a variety, many adult golfers that have no idea how far they carry their clubs, which it's a wildly important topic. This is a great way at 5 years old, I can introduce that to you. And I tell them this: what happens when you hit a ball in a pond? They say, it just goes in the pond. And I ask them, does it roll? No, it's in water. All right. So what's more important, how far the ball flies in the air or how far it rolls? And they say, how far it flies in the air. And I say, the reason why you missed that 50-yard shot is because you still have your 50-yard shot outside in your mind. That shot was going to hit and it was going to stop close to 50 yards. How do you change your thinking? What club do you have to use? What swing do you have to use to get that ball to go 50 yards in the air? And now you've unlocked this whole new way of thinking that they've never really thought about before, which is important for where we know they need to go as golfers. Carry versus total distance is really, really good for this one. And then there's an option in here where there's a 24-shot challenge. And I love to do this one with some of my more competitive individuals, where you get 24 shots, and the more points you can get will get you a spot on my leaderboard right there. So right now, the record we have is 9,324 points by the Kawada brothers. And then a week later, I reset that record at 9,409 points. And the older son turns to his father and says, "Dad, we need to buy a TrackMan because I want to go beat Evan at the Magic Pond Challenge." He plays varsity for his high school team, and he wants to beat me at the Magic Pond Challenge. These games have will hit everybody as long as you spin it right, as long as you create that appropriate challenge. It's good for everybody. Moving on here, let's go to this one, another favorite, capture the flag. All right, so in capture the flag, if you hit the ball closest to the hole, you will win that hole. If somebody hits it closer, you can steal it. So you can set how many rounds you do, how many shots you do, and make it as long or as short as you really want. A great warm-up activity for competitive players, just to get them dialed in on distance. But this one I found just creates some wild battles with players in indoor sessions. Why I love this one, and I still, for those of you that know the Operation 36 curriculum, I still love to teach ball flight in level 1 as chip, pitch, and full swing, because I love the concept of knee to knee, hip to hip, and then going all the way up and all the way through. This is a really great game for you to apply that curriculum to the activity, because you've now got a 50-yard shot, a 60-yard shot, a 90-yard shot, or maybe it's 22 yards, 38, 55, or 109. The different maps, this Jurassic one is really good for beginners because you've got 3 that are spaced right here where you don't have to carry over anything. 22, 38, 55. Most players should be able to get a sniff of that. This 109, we don't have to use that one. This is the one I use for the beginners. Whoops. Skyline is always a favorite one. This is tough because then again, another conversation about carry. You're hitting it to a stop of a skyscraper. You've got to carry at the right distance. But then it gives you the opportunity to say, okay, what club are you going to hit for 22 yards? I'm going to hit pitch wedge. Great. What type of swing are you going to use? And they make a swing. I'm like, ooh, you just made a full swing. It's only 22 yards. What type of swing do you think could be better? It doesn't need to be longer or shorter. Oh, it's got to be shorter. What about knee to knee? Give it a try. So then by having the numbers, by having this game, by having the information in front of them, they're now gaining more knowledge about themselves instead of just going for a swing and, oh gosh, that went over the green. You're giving them the experience of seeing how far it actually is, how far it actually went, and that only enhances their skills, their knowledge for when you're not there on the golf course.
Evan,
Really capture the flag. Fantastic.
Yeah, and as you said, what this is doing is it's almost the feedback is coming so much faster, and you can get more repetitions indoors, right? From just looking at a pure beginner. What we always are after here is how do we get them to get more reps in? And you can have just get reps in, or you can get purposeful reps in, right? And so like I've noticed it with my daughter too. It's they hit the shot and it immediately shows, poof, that went 30 yards. Well, that's something they've never thought. When you do it on the range, you don't get something to pop up and tell you it went 30 yards in front of your face, right? And so it's quick, and then you loading and all the extra stuff that happens in between. That is gamification at the highest level. Like, and it's so accurate, right? Like back in the day, we couldn't say that when they were hitting these shots indoors that it was accurate, but it's so accurate. So it's like it's a combination of all these things coming together that make the environment that much more engaging right now. So I'm loving that you're going through all of these, because this is deep. Like there's so many things in here I can see, and it's just like in any other launch monitor technology. You got to find those like nuggets, apply it, and no one's really done this yet. So again, thank you for continuing to go down this path. I will say you probably have like 2-3 minutes, and then we have enough time for Q&A. You got 10 minutes till top of the hour. We want to wrap before then.
Oh gosh, all right.
I know, you better get rolling, and I see questions coming in, and I want to be able to do a Q&A too.
Well, let me do a quick tease. Streets of Neon here is one they released last year. This is a mini golf game, and what I use this for, and historically, putting has always been the weakest part of the launch monitor system. Simulated golf putting is inaccurate. However, what I use this for is working on 2 things: distance control and face angle control. That's it. All right. So instead of, if I asked one of my 7-year-olds, okay, it's 100 yards. They have no clue what 100 feet. They have no clue what 100 feet feels like. They don't even know what 6 foot feels like. So I tell them long, medium, and short. Do you think 100-foot putt is going to be a long, medium, or short swing. They say long. Show me what your long swing looks like. And then we start to learn distance control. And that's the most valuable thing you can do indoors, in my opinion, is get their distance control a little bit better. And then if you have not checked it out, go check out Scrapyard. This is an absolute home run of a game. I had 6 girls in here. Their parents are 100 feet away in a separate room, and they can hear them screaming with excitement. And they say, "What are you doing?" I'm like, it's new game day at TrackMan Week. Go check it out, everybody. Really, really good stuff. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for listening to all that. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So what do you got for me, Matt?
Yeah, I got questions to surface up to you, right? Let me start to work through these. Evan, thank you again. This is phenomenal. It's a new area, Op36 indoors, how they come together, but it's neat to see how much opportunity there is here. I think about how much time was put in collaboratively with coaches in our network and us to try to come up with engaging things outside. And when technology catches to say, hey, look, we can leverage technology to create that engaging path and give feedback faster and get people better faster. I mean, it's here. Like that's so exciting because that means that whole leaky bucket of beginners coming in and leaving, it's gonna start to fill in. People are going to enjoy getting better and want to become a golfer. So again, thanks. So let's go through. There's a lot of people agreeing with you on the straight ball doesn't exist. So I just a few comments. I just want to let you know that. Others saying, yeah, they use Delbrook Forest course. It says, when a golfer beats 36 indoors from their yardage, do they also get to advance outdoors? So this is a great question. This is a question internally we've had at Op36. I will say the way we're approaching it at Op36, there will be a new type of round in the app coming in the next couple of months, which is called a simulator round. So you're going to have your green grass round, outdoor round, and you're going to have your simulator round. So you can log both, and they will operate independently. We will give the coach the decision on if they want to level up a student formally based on an indoor round. But I will say indoor, I'll give an example. My daughter has shot 37 3 times from level 1. She's right there, right? She's 7-year-old. Indoors, GSPro, she's a level 3. So there's definitely a discrepancy of it is a bit easier indoors. Obviously, you're on a flat surface, which we want it to be. That's why we kind of took the stance that we want them separate. And to us, this adds a variation. They're excited to come indoors and progress. They're excited to go outdoors and progress. We didn't want them to be combined together, but we did want to put it will be in there that you could progress someone, but it's the coach's choice. Evan, you had a pretty strong position on this, on how you feel and how you want to run your academy. And that's why we wanted to build it that way. Tell me what you think.
Well, what I do with the encore stuff that I do inside is I want to use it as practice, as repetitions for when they get outside, using the distance numbers, using the different things that we can do, talking about rough. It's my personal opinion that you cannot recreate the ball going into the cup. There are so many different factors, and we all know that. I just think that in order for an official division round to count, the ball has to go into the hole. That's just me. So I like to use my indoor rounds as practice, as competitive internally, but then preparing them for when we get to the outdoor season.
That's excellent. Christian says, I keep my groups at 4 players per simulator. During the training portion, say the first 30 minutes, do you have tips for keeping the students who are not hitting engaged?
Yes. So this is more classroom management. But I say to every student, I've got a putting mat over here. And so often I see a kid come grab their putter and walk over there. And I say, no, what are you doing? It's like, I'm going to putt. So no, we're all a team. All right. So what we do is we need to be encouraging each other. We need to be watching, because you never know, when I'm giving instruction, you might pick something up. But even if you're not hitting, you got to be sitting on the couch and you got to be present and engaged with us. So 4 is challenging. 2 is a little bit easier. But what I would say is that I use 3 shots and then switch to keep it humming, to keep it moving. And that way we get through all sorts of these different, the different rotations quicker and faster. But if you think about it, if you've got a group of 4 people, having them sit and wait is a really good thing. Because when we go outside, golf is a social sport. It's a social activity where only one person's hitting. So you need to wait and you need to be engaged and present with the other people that you want to go play with. That's just part of golf. So if they can learn that in this situation, it's going to serve them really well in the future. And that's a way that we aren't just teaching golf, we're teaching about life.
No, great, great. Um, just a couple comments on reading through these still. Uh, this is kind of, and I can take a little bit of this one. How do you handle younger juniors in technology with Op36 app, watching the videos, inputting practice? Those that might not now have phones, mobile devices, how much video watching are you doing on class on site? So, from just to help, I lead the product at Op36. So the way that the phone is designed, yes, there's tools in there but it's mostly for the parent in respects. There's not a ton of kids on my end in the programs that I was in where they're the ones using it when it comes down to juniors in technology. But it's and as we're evolving the mobile app this year and the designs and what we're focused on is a lot more administration for the parents while still surfacing the exciting tools for the students when they need those to be able to watch the videos. But a lot of that is done with parent facilitation. We've also seen the coaches there are some that just show the video of what the curriculum video is, right? And I've seen some actually pull it up in simulators, which is kind of cool. They'll pull up the video in the web app and they'll just play it on that big screen and everybody watches it for 3-4 minutes. And then the coach talks about it and helps everybody with it. And that becomes the foundation for the day. So I've heard of a lot of different ways. How exactly do you use or how do you see the juniors using the mobile app or how do you use it in your classes?
Well, to start, I start the curriculum testing at age 8. So from 5 to 7 or 3 to 5, we don't do any testing. It's just simply coaching. It's simply I'm giving them the curriculum word of mouth. This is something I struggle with as well, the engagement on the app. But really, for me, what I wanted to make sure is they're getting the information in the appropriate way. So I have many different ways of saying the same thing to different students. And then afterwards, no offense to Ryan. Ryan does an awesome job with the videos, but I feel like I can communicate better to my students and then go have them watch the video and they say, okay, I understand what's going on in this video a little bit better because I've been walked through it.
Yep.
And the first 2 years that they're with me, if they're started age 5, I'm giving them this level 1 stuff over and over and over again. So by the time they hit age 8 and they're ready to be tested, they're already ready to go. And then as they get a little bit older, their experience with technology gets more, and then we start to see more engagement with the app. But that is something that I need a little bit of help with too, Matt.
Yeah, this year too, before we just made a kind of curriculum 2.0 launch where students can watch the videos and mark them complete on their own. That wasn't there. The other sense too, when a coach marks it approved now, which there's a new multi-skill testing tool, what makes it really easy to test multiple students and submit it. Parents were never receiving an email and there was never a notification or gamification in the app. That's all happening now. So a lot of the behind the scenes of the app is showing the parent that the student's progressing, right? And then the parents knowing that the curriculum's in there. So if you say, hey, watch this video at home, it can be supportive. So it's definitely a kind of a compass, so to speak, that's there as a tool in their journey, but it's not the end all be all. If they don't want to log, if you don't want to lean in, that not everybody does, right? So there's different ways of doing that. We have some pretty cool I would call them challenges that we can bring, a challenge tool for coaches this year that we're exploring. So excited to be bringing that forward here soon. And then the 9-hole event feature that's coming soon to organize 9-hole events. Essentially, when a student shoots 36 from it instantly sends everybody an email now that leveled up to congratulate them and say it unlocked the next level. And then it also, every student that improves by 1 stroke in your program is send an email to the family that says, hey, they improved by another stroke. Here's how many strokes they lost in this level. So these are all the triggers behind the scenes that have been missing that are all there now this year. So it's exciting to have that foundation in place, and we're only going to continue to improve that. And then a couple more questions here. What is your stance on parents hanging out indoors with you?
With the space constraints, I don't let them just because simply I don't have enough space. But my policy with parents is I want them to be here. I want them to be listening to the way that I'm communicating to their kids, the things that I'm saying to them. And then I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had a parent problem with them coaching their kids while they're with me. but I would just say making sure that you're there as an observer. But I welcome it because then everybody's on the same page and we don't have the, oh, keep your head down from dads, instead of saying, your practice your IYAL and make sure you tap your toe, that kind of thing. But I would say it depends on the space. If I can have parents around, I allow them to.
That's excellent. Yeah, we're starting to run out of time. We're at top of the hour. There are a couple more questions. What we'll try to do is just follow up on those questions to everybody. This is recorded, so we'll send that out. And the folks that will send it out to you, if you have any questions on Operation 36, if you have any direct questions for Evan, we'd love to get them in there. Maybe Evan, you went through so much stuff. I would love to kind of help put together a cheat sheet on this to send to everybody, because there was so many great little
Absolutely
numbers in there. That would be awesome if we could get that too, and I'll work with you on it, because I think this is a great best practice article that we could like put all together, because it's a lot. We understand it's a lot to navigate this indoor stuff. The technology at TrackMan, obviously, they're a massive company, tons of resources that they're pouring into that. I haven't really even dove into this game's first time I'm seeing it. I'm pretty excited. I mean, like if I was at TrackMan and on this right now, I'd be excited about using this to help promote it, because I'm excited about TrackMan. So, and again, we're very committed at Op36 to how do we continue to adapt the programs indoors, develop the partnerships that we need and what our coaches need to be successful to run the program. So we will continue to beat that drum here at Op36 and Golf Genius. And we have a great leadership team that helps us do those partnerships and navigate that now. So very exciting. Any final thoughts, Evan, before we hop?
I'm just grateful for everybody that tuned in. And if you want to ask me any questions, I'm always here to help.
Excellent. Evan, obviously you're so well done. Thank you again. We can't thank you enough. And everyone else, thank you for joining us. I hope you have a great weekend. And as you're kicking off your season, if you're new to Op36, we'd love to have you join us this year. We have a lot of exciting things in the works, and happy to run a demo with our team and get you on board anytime. So we'll follow up soon. Thanks, everybody.